Some of us think about it all the time. Are we really free? That is such a subject that it's it takes a lot of thought to manifest this type of thought because that question can be answered some by some in the affirmative and by many in the negative. Are we really free? There's so many things that we have to talk about when it comes to determining are we really free. So for the next hour or so, we will dive into a lot of the aspects of being free in the United States of America as an African American, as a Black American, as a Moor American. So sit back and enjoy while we talk a little crap about whether we are free or not, or whether we have been free or not. Shalom, shalom. I want to welcome you to the Black News Network, the real voice of Black USA. And this is from the desk of the Emissary. I am your host, War Smith Bay, broadcasting the War Report from a Black perspective. We do not own the rights to the music, but we do own the rights to what we say. Before we dive into our topic today, please subscribe to us on YouTube and like us on Facebook. BNN247, BNN247. Thank you so much for your patronage. Are we free? We've never been free, to be honest with you. If you want to go all the way back to the beginning of the Emancipation Proclamation, January 1, 1863, we can take it from that point to this point and explain to you why the question is asked, are we really free? And then the answer is given, we've never been free. And based on the information that I've come up with, and I'm sure you can reference it as well as I have, and it'll tell you exactly the same thing that I'm about to tell you right now. Let's get in it. Let's see what's happening. First of all, the Emancipation Proclamation was given, written to give us freedom from slavery. President Lincoln at the time said, "We need to give you the opportunity to liberate your slaves. You have 50 days to liberate your slaves from the plantation." And at the end of the 50 days, the federal government will pay you up to $10 per liberated slave. Now, that is such a profound and powerful statement coming from our federal government. For them to say that they're going to pay the slave owners money to allow us to leave the plantation is a mouthful. Because once you say we're going to pay you, you're giving those slave owners an incentive to allow you to leave the plantation. But at the same time, the Emancipation Proclamation is a double edged sword because there is no way these white plantation owners will allow 100% of all their slaves to walk off into the wild blue yonder. Because who is going to do the cotton? Who's going to plant the seeds? Who's going to till the ground? Who's going to pick the cotton? Somebody got to do it. So even though they ratified the Emancipation Proclamation, there was still a underlined contingency plan to make this shit still happen, to make those crops still get out of that field, to make sure that these plantation owners had the right labor forces that they need to get people off or to get the crops out for that particular year. That is just the beginning of it in a nutshell, the Emancipation Proclamation and us walking off the plantation. But to bring it up to current speed and up to the current day, let's talk about why we know we really can't say we are free. You know, we have a hard time saying that we own anything. When I say own anything, I mean we don't own the manufacturing, we don't own the nurturing, we don't own any particular industry in America. And if you go in your home right now and you pick up 10 different items, flip those items over and look on the bottom of those items, you're going to see made in China on those items. And just to give you a little information on that made in China stuff, those are imports coming from overseas saying made in China. So Donald Trump is telling everyone that he's going to place tariffs on that merchandise coming into this country. Now, that does not mean, this is where you're missing the boat in many cases, in many people. That does not mean you are going to have to pay, or China is going to have to pay for those items being transported into the United States of America, because China is not going to pay a damn thing. They're going to pay what they've always paid to ship particular items to the United States. You know, mind you, there will be some level of inflation, but for the most part, there won't be no level of inflation for them because the shit is cheap to start with. But when it comes to the tariffs, who pays the tariffs? What that means is the let's say Walmart, who's probably the biggest retailer in the country, and the wholesaler buyers from places like China. So all or the majority of the items in Walmart right now are from China. And because they are from China, Walmart has to pay the tariffs. Walmart has to pay the tariffs on the items being imported from China to Walmart. Now, as you know and I know, whatever costs these companies, these owners, these manufacturers have, whatever they are going to pass the cost on to the consumer. So the tariffs that Donald Trump is saying he's going to raise the tariffs on China products, Taiwan products, these countries ain't going to pay a damn thing. Who's going to pay is the consumer. We are going to pay because Walmart, okay, you want to charge higher tariffs? I don't give a damn. We got the business. I'll pay them. So they're going to pay the tariffs. But when that item gets in that store and you want to buy that item that was 99 cents last week, this week is $2.99 because those tariffs have been passed on to the consumer cost of the individual. That is the catch 22 phrase. But when they say they're going to raise tariffs, they make it sound so beautiful, so like we're going to stick it to the damn Chinese, but sending shit over here. But see, they bullshitting the people. And that is where the problem lies because the tariffs ain't got shit to do with what China is sending over here because Walmart going to bring their shit and Walmart just going to pass that damn charge on down to you as a consumer. So being a consumer in America, and I'm talking specifically Black folks, African Americans, we don't own shit. We got to pay for shit. So we're going to pay those tariffs. So that those people out there saying that Donald Trump put money in our pocket, you better wake the fuck up because right now you're not thinking right if you think that this man's going to do something to benefit you. And for that matter, in this entire country, why would your oppressor do something to elevate you when they have spent hundreds of years oppressing you? And you think they're going to do something for you? Wake the hell up, my people. Well, we don't own anything, so we already know that. So we'll end up paying the higher costs for those items. But let's go back to some other entities of our society. Like we love professional football and we love professional basketball and baseball and a few other professional sports that are dominated by Black people. Those Black people make a lot of damn money. What's the difference in those Black people and a slave? None. Because the only thing you're going to see here is they get all this money and don't know what to do with it. And every one of them, not everyone, but many of them go bankrupts after they get out of the NFL, or they get into legal trouble, or they get into women trouble, or they get into paying child support trouble. So they get into some kind of trouble because they have not really learned how to handle that amount of money being put in their hands at such an early age. And at that point, they're not going to listen to too many people telling them how to spend their damn money. They're the ones who are out there on the field. But look at the field and then take a look in the audience. Then look at the field and look in the audience. And you see on the field, you see Blacks. In the audience, you see whites. So right now, you playing all these sports, but you getting paid. That's the only difference. You're paying all these sports, but the concept is the same. The white folks own your Black ass out there on that field or on that court. They own you. So we've dominated all these fields. Yes, we have. And we've given Black people, they have given Black people a hell of a lot of money to play these sports. A hell of a lot of money. But you'd never see a lot of that money trickling down into our communities because we don't have communities. We don't have them anymore. We went from communities to neighborhoods, and we went from neighborhoods to hoods. And that's where we are currently at the hood, because no society in America right now maintains a 85 to 100% ratio of Black. We don't have more than 85% of black people in one particular geographical area. And I doubt if it's even that much, because everywhere we seem to have started a community of black people by us, for us, and everything else on us, we have been destroyed. America has wiped out that particular establishment and told the black people, we taking all your shit, now get the hell out of here. And if you don't leave, we're going to kill you. And that's exactly what has happened. So don't think that we are free, because we're not. You know, we walked off that plantation feeling we are free, we're free, we're free. And so we're going into the world. But the moment you walked off that plantation, and then the 14th Amendment passed after the Emancipation Proclamation, saying that we are not going to pay anybody a damn thing. And America don't need to, I mean, entities in America better not come saying we owe you something. And if you do, we're going to lock you up. The federal government set that in the 14th Amendment. I mean, take a look at it while I'm talking, the 14th Amendment, and you'll see where the federal government said we're not paying anybody anything. And if you're trying to say we do, we're gonna take you to court, because we don't owe you anymore. Even though we may have said it in the Emancipation Proclamation, right now, since y'all done let everybody go, we don't owe you shit. So the slaves walked off the plantation, and with the assumption that they would be paid for by the federal government, and the federal government said, not now, hell to the no, we ain't paying you shit. But see, the legitimacy of them saying that they would pay the slave owners was real, because in the Fifth Amendment it tells you that the federal government will not take anything from you without just and due compensation. But then on the 14th Amendment, it contradicts the Fifth. So who's to say which one's the right one to follow? I mean, there can be an argument for both. And we would have to make the decision on which one really applies to us as a people. By virtue of us not being paid for, by virtue of us walking off the plantation, they came out with something that said, fuck this, we're going to get these niggas back on our plantation one way or another. So that another way was to issue the black codes. So the black codes basically state that anything that we say is wrong, it's wrong, and we can lock you up for it. You get wrong for trying to vote, you got to go to jail. So now you're back in jail for trying to vote, and you're going to stay in jail at least 6 months to a year, maybe longer. And that 6 months to a year, you're going to be dispatched back out to the plantation that you just walked off of. And now you're working for Mr. Billy again, and Mr. Billy don't give a damn about you, because he ain't got to give a damn about you, because your welfare is the ward, as a ward of the state, is paid for by the ward of the state. All Mr. Billy got to do is work the dog shit out of you until you cannot work anymore. And that's what Mr. Billy has done. You know, that is just the beginning of the troubles that we had to experience. Abraham Lincoln reneging on paying uh, compensation for the slaves. That was number one. Number two, putting putting a black person in prison and then back on the plantation where they work for the landowner for free. And everybody was in on it because everybody was getting paid off of it. You know, and black people went through so much of their funds trying to pay somebody off to get out of prison or to get out off that plantation, and they ended up right back on there on the legal jurisdictions, which is very, very sad and unheartening for me, because we should know better by now that this is a white country, and anything not white functioning in this country is a thorn in their side. And we are the biggest thorn in their side, because we know that you got to pay us. And I don't mean in the form of reparation money. I mean in the form of just due compensation for us being the descendants of slaves, of former slaves. So by us not owning anything, by us being dominant in the sports world with all the white folks in the bleachers, by us being dominant in the entertainment world, by us being dominant in other worlds that are not mentioned here, we have established ourselves as a true warrior in this fight for justice. And as long as we can keep it that way, we are going to get where we need to go as far as America is concerned. Our farmers have suffered. I mean, we went from owning 3 billion acres of land in our farm communities to less than 1 million acres in our farming community. They took it, they took the land. And because they took it in such a way where you would die if you went back to get it, then nobody protested you taking the land. So nothing in this country has ever been designed for you. Even an African can come to America and get more respect from local government, from city government, county and state and federal government than a black man that's been here all his life. He cannot get the same respect as that African. That African is going to be held in high veneration, but that black American is going to be placed on the lowest tier that they can put them on because they do not want us here. They don't want us here, and it ain't our fault. You know, that's them. That's their hang up. We don't have that same shit going on in our mind. Because the military, the employment agencies, the legal defenses does not hold accountability for what actually happens to African Americans and Black Americans in this country. It puts us in a situation where we really are not free because all these stipulations hold us down to a bare minimum of anything. We are not living the American dream. We can't live the American dream because they won't allow us to live the American dream. And how they don't allow us is because they don't get out of our damn way. If they just got out of our way, there's no stopping what we can do as a people. There's no stopping. We can do so many things if nobody stood in front of us to slow us down on what we had to do in life. That's been the problem all along. The more we try and do, the more they try and stop us from doing because we are the true people. America, in many other words, can be considered Babylon because there are so many different languages here. There's so many different cultures here. If you are if you're Japanese, you have a Japanese culture. If you're an ocean person, you have a squid and an octopus culture. So it goes on down the line. Where do you work? And what type of jobs do you accomplish? We never got our 40 acres and a mule. And once we did come off of that plantation and had to go right back under the black codes, at the same time, up in Stone Mountain, Georgia, the Ku Klux Klan was being formed. And it was formed by William Summons in 1915, the founder of the KKK. William Summons in 1915 created the KKK. And the KKK has been a thorn in our sides from days on end, from way back in the beginning. And because it's been that thorn, there's not very much we could have done about it. So we have learned to turn the other cheek and stop fighting and stop fussing and stop demanding our rights be respected and let certain people just run all over us. And we're laughing with them about it when they do it. So that is not something we want to take to our grave. We don't want to allow them to still have jurisdiction over us, even though they don't expect us to be, they don't want us to be full citizens in this country, but technically we're not, but we can act like full citizens of this country. We have all the rights and benefits that they have. Since the Emancipation Proclamation, the implementation of the Black Codes, the Confederate Army, which was part of the Confederate States, the 11 Federate States, all the way from Texas, all the way around to West Virginia, those 11 states fought against the Union Army. So now that the Union Army has prevailed and won the war, it is time for America to reunite again. So in order for America to reunite, they told all the generals that were with the military, the Confederate military, they told those generals that all we need y'all to do is to take the oath of amnesty, and we'll turn this whole southern peninsula back over to you. And that's exactly what the federal government did. These generals, these high-ranking officials, took the oath of amnesty, and when they took the oath of amnesty, they were given their states back and their lands back. But the reality of this situation is they put the same generals back into power that was pro-slavery. So now you got a million black people wandering around the streets looking for work, and you got a progressive white, a progressive white person there to say whether you can be there or not. Then you have to deal with that type of stuff as an individual and as a group of people. It is our responsibility to say no, to not allow them to relegate us back to slavery. But because they took the oath of amnesty and we didn't, it left us in oblivion. Now, if the federal government going to tell all the white folks that fought against them to take this oath of amnesty, but they're not going to tell those black people who just got liberated off the plantation to take the oath of amnesty, then where's the disconnect there? You can't reinstate this group by not instating this group, this other group over here, because when you don't instate this group over here, you leave this group out to fend for themselves as a non-United States citizen, because none of these people over here on the left, the black folks that walked off the plantation, are citizens of the United States. So they created this 14th Amendment, like everyone says, that the 14th Amendment gave us the right to be citizens. No, no, no. You can believe that. I mean, it's easy to believe. It's easy to wrap your mind around it, but you wrap your mind around it because you don't want to pay attention to what's happening here in America. And if you don't want to pay attention, then you end up repeating the same history that you repeated back then. This is something that really irks many black people today, because the American government, the federal government, refused to allow the slaves coming out the plantation to take the oath of amnesty, which would have given every one of those slaves citizenship just by taking the oath of amnesty. You would not need an amendment to the Constitution to make you a citizen. You wouldn't need that. because you would be a citizen because you took the oath just like the Confederate soldiers did. And therefore, they brought them back into the Union. They'll have to admit you into the Union because you took the same damn oath. And that is what the ball tells us today, that we are not free because we never took that oath of amnesty. But on the same token, you look at the 14th Amendment, you claim that that is what gives us freedom. And I'm here to tell you it does not, because the 14th Amendment says neither slave nor indentured servant shall whatever, whatever, whatever. But it says slave. Again, here we go. Slave, uh, African American, black, colored, negroid, whatever you want to say that is not appropriate about our people, you call them that. So we are now in a position where we have to get ourselves authenticated and brought back into the Union, even though the 14th Amendment was ratified, even though the Confederate soldiers got their oath of amnesty out the way, we are yet to be ratified. So until we can do that, then we still have a problem accepting what the people of this country tries to give us. We don't have to accept it. Our biggest issue is unity. That's our biggest issue. I said a few minutes ago that William Summons in 1915 founded the KKK, and they founded this KKK to deal with black people. The only purpose of the KKK was to deal with black people, and what they would do is every Sunday night they would terrorize the black neighborhoods and the black communities, especially these teenage boys that are white and thinking they're right all the time. They would get on pickup trucks or whatever modes of transmission they had and go over into the black community and find them a black kid and take them out and kill them, castrate them, cut the fingers off. And there was a question asked to a white person this year, last month, as a matter of fact. And the question was, did you or did you not say that we are free? And when you ask the question, you know that it's a lie because you haven't done the basic steps. You know, you can give us the lip service all you want to and tell us we're free, but when the rubber hits the road, we're not. That is why if they call for the black codes and they can put you back in jail based on you violating any of those codes, which mean you can be walking while black, driving while black, sitting while black, standing while black, talking while black. You can be doing anything while black as a black person in the earliest centuries. You can be arrested and placed in jail for an indefinite amount of time. And now you are a felony. If you're a felon, even if you're not a felon, you're a felon in America's eye, because you start to see the applications come up with certain things on their application trying to figure out who you are. And if you go without checking those boxes, they got you. They're not going to hire you in this employment. So you already know you got to be twice as good. You got to be more professional than any white person on the same job you own, because if you're not, then they're going to dismiss you. And they're going to swear up and down that you're lazy when they're the lazy ones walking around every single morning with a coffee cup in their hands. But you're the one lazy. When you hit the ground running every day, you go to work. You go in there to get your job done and get up out of there. You ain't there to linger around and make new friends or none of that. You there to do a job and get up out of there. And that's what you do. White people would go to church on Sundays. And when they got out of church, They would go to the black side of town and just catch them a black man or black woman for that matter and bring them back to the picnic where they would hang a black man alive. And then after they hung him, they would castrate him and cut off his body parts and put them in jars and sell those jar pictures as souvenirs. And in some cases, you'd find the binders of the book wrapped in human skin, which means that the people out of Buddha wanted to have so much control over the people that they stopped using the foam, they started using the spray. It's a story behind what's happening here in America, and it makes us all too knowledgeable about what is actually going down here in this country. We're not free. We've never been free. After we get through with the black codes, we they still didn't get paid by the federal government. So the white folks in this country came up with the Jim Crow laws. Jim Crow laws, same thing as the black codes. It takes us out of commission of life. They denied us life and liberty and the pursuit of happiness in America. They violated the Constitution when it came to us. That is something that we have to know, and that it should never, ever become a complacent way for us to live our lives. We should never be satisfied. And then I hear people, lots of black people saying, all I want is to be treated equally. There is no equally in the American language. You cannot be treated equally. I don't give a damn what you do, how white you sound. If your skin looks like my skin or the palm of my hand, you can forget it. You are not going to advance in our communities because of the race of your skin. That's it. Or because of your race. It is a sad day in America when that is what's happening. And then when we leave, we go to church to get filled with the Holy Spirit and God, and then we come out of church to go hang some damn body. Man, oh man. This is when I say the white worshipers can come out of church and go do something like this. This tells me that that's no scruples. That is more ballsy than anybody I've ever known. And because of that, there's a problem down the road that we'll have to deal with because they did that to us. The Americans came into this country, and the only objective they had was to rule this country. And they wanted to rule it as a dictatorship, but Ken didn't bring his rod and reel. White people chose Christianity to promote for us. When they chose Christianity to promote for us, they taught us that black people should obey their masters. There were so many books removed from the Bible that they did not want us to learn. It was forbidden for us to learn how to read and write. And because we could not learn how to read or write, there was no way for us to learn the true scripture of the Bible. Everywhere they went, they brought Christianity with them. And so no matter what language, what religion, what culture it was, they felt like Christianity overruled whatever you've been doing for the last 1,000 years. And if you don't change it, we'll send the crusaders in to kill you. So many people will convert it to Christianity, even though that was not what they really wanted to be or do or hear or see. They did it because they thought that would make America happy. but it didn't. When you walk around today, you hear many people deny their whiteness. And because they deny their whiteness, that does not mean that they're not persistent with their whiteness at the same time. So, on one hand of the world, you see all the people acting like they're just like everybody else. But on the other hand of these people, you see that they want to persist in their whiteness. That is something that is not going to change, and it's that way because this is America. They will continue to oppress us and hold us back from our ultimate goals, and they will continue to do that because we have never been free. So there's no such thing as equal rights for equal people. We have no room for things to be equal because it will never in our lifetimes be equal. The Black people have to keep growing, stay focused, stop all this hobnogging and running around and not paying attention to what's going on in front of your world. Your children are being in a pipeline, being placed in a pipeline. Our men are being placed in a prison. Our women are being pulled in by the federal government so they can support, they can believe that the federal government got their backs and not their men. It's a conspiracy to make sure we never ever get our foothold in this country. Because the moment we do, we all learn that this land belongs to us. This is Northwest Africa, ladies and gentlemen. They chose to continue our oppression by the Black codes after the Emancipation Proclamation, by the Jim Crow laws after the Emancipation Proclamation, and then all these other little bitty things that they required of us made us not be as good as we could be. It really stopped us from progressing the way we should be progressing. That ain't our fault. That is not our fault. In 1790, the U.S. came up with this thing called the Naturalization Act. And when they came up with the Naturalization Act, it was the sole reason to identify Black people that were not part of this heritage, or not part of their heritage. And in order for them to do that, they had to make sure we do not know who we are or where we came from. That's a hard pill to swallow. It is very hard to swallow, and not for us to know what we are and who we are and where we came from. If we can't get back to our roots, we'll never know the truth about what's happening here. Our legal defense funds are not there to represent us. Mr. Williams, who's on death row and scheduled to be executed on October the 24th, everything surrounding his markup for the last 30 years has been on appeal after appeal after appeal. But they intend to hang this guy just to appease the public. But how can you decide to do that when you have not prosecuted this man with 80 or 34 felony accounts? But yet you can go after P. Diddy. You can go after all these Black artists and try and put them in the position where they can put them in a position where they can help lead us. But that doesn't happen either. They're like, we got the plague over here on the east side of every town. They took every bit of the land, and now they want to divvy it out to the Indians. The Indians said no. Just a tidbit of information. Charles F. Page invented the airplane, not the Wright brothers. In 1906, he flew an airplane. So he put it on a train to take it to the World's Fair in Chicago. And the train never made it to Chicago, thereby giving the Wright brothers an opportunity to fly their plane before he did. The culture in America for us does not exist. That's something that we have to fix ourselves. Everything to me that we need to fix is internal. And if we don't fix it, we are never going to get to the level of intellectual ability that we are capable of. We got to fix our culture. We got to fix our communities, and we got to fix ourselves. I mean, we are still traumatized. We're traumatized from slavery. It's been passed down year after year to us, and it ain't our fault. We're just victims right now. But you go and tell somebody that we're victims, oh, now you want to play the victim. I ain't got to play it. I am. They took the land and want to give it back. This is the Black News Network, the real voice of Black USA, broadcasting the news from a Black perspective. We do not own the rights to the music, but we do own the rights to what we say. So, with that, I want to say thank you, and please don't forget to subscribe. Don't forget to like us. Don't forget to be a friend on Facebook and follow us. Without further ado, I want to thank you for listening to the Black News Network.